Greetings, fellow Gothamites. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And we're back to cover episode 1 of season 4 of Fox's retelling of the Dark Knight mythology, entitled Pax Penguina. So join us as we venture into Batman's birthplace.
And explore Gotham.
Yes, that's right, Dragon. We are back once again. Season 4. Oh my god. Wow. A Dark Knight. Not the Dark Knight, but a Dark Knight. You know, it's not the one, but it's a one. You know, yeah, anyways. How you doing, Dragon?
Okay.
All right, so let's just jump right into it, folks. Of course, we're going to be trying to scale these podcasts back a little bit in terms of runtime because, oh man, Dragon, I don't know if you remember, but like early episodes, like I believe our Selena Kyle podcast,
yeah,
like,
Selena Kyle one
was like 3 hours or something like that. Something ridiculous. So,
we were young.
So, folks, we're gonna try to keep it under an hour. We're gonna basically our goal here is, instead of going beat by beat, we're gonna go scene by scene. We're gonna try this format out, see how it goes for the next, up until the mid-season finale, and then see what works from there. All right, Dragon. So let's start with, of course, the opening scene that kind of sets the stage. Dragon, I'll give like one nitpick about this scene because I know that you want to rave about it. My one nitpick about this scene is that the first time I watched it, I honestly wasn't sure if it was a recap of the final scene of season 3, just because it's very similar in how it's staged.
You know, that's fair, Tiki, but I kind of discovered as it was happening.
Like, basically what I thought it was like a
basically the same night. Basically like
no, basically I was gonna say like the same scene, except we're seeing it from Bruce's perspective instead of the people's perspective.
Well, obviously it wasn't the same scene, Tiki, because they didn't have the daughter. It was like a family of 3, and then he.
You know what? It's been a while since I've watched the last scene, so I didn't remember the daughter.
Of course, it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole show, so I know it like the back of my hand. So that's probably why.
Anyway, go. So
let me set it up, folks, just so we know where we're coming at here, and to clarify, this scene is 3 months later. So that's where this whole season starts, and this is Bruce continuing to do what he started where last season ended. So he just keeps doing what he did at the ending of last season, essentially. Where 3 months have passed, Bruce is still up to his ski mask vigilante antics, which of course, kind of the fun kind of proto-Batman. Like one of the great visual symbols of the proto-Batman, of course, kind of your ski mask vigilante. Bruce Wayne, again, before he has kind of the Bat identity, if you will, which is always kind of a fun thing to explore. Again, honestly, it's rarely been explored except for, again, Mask of the Phantasm as a kind of a fun section devoted to it. You have Batman Begins, which also will be kind of tackled this season, which we'll get to. And honestly, I mean, there's like one other story I can really think of, and anything else has just been kind of Scott Snyder kind of reinvented it with Zeri. He never wears a ski mask, but he does some vigilante activity.
Well, I mean, let's also acknowledge the big, big.
Of course, yeah. Year 1 is in the same vein. But, a lot of people also think that the ski mask comes from like he never technically wore the ski mask, but he had like a ski cap on, so that's where people kind of get the ski mask crossover, that one. But
that's funny. That kind of sounds like a false Mandela effect or something.
Yeah, it's
no, we had a ski mask in year 1. I'm telling you,
it's really funny. It's always just kind of his point is it's vigilante. It's vigilante Bruce, but ski mask's always been kind of like the best version of it because it's so close to Batman, but still not. So. Anyway. Point is, it's 3 months later. We pick up with Bruce continuing his ski mask vigilante antics. This is my nickname for it before we upgrade it to other forms of vigilantism. So he's fighting crime, and I love this. Namely, he is starting, fighting against muggings, which, of course, the crime that made him who he is. Parents being mugged, of course. So I like that we're kind of we're adapting the Batman methodology, starting kind of small as we work our way up to solving and fighting other forms of crime.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. Kind of like what we did in The Amazing Spider-Man, where he's kind of working his way up, kind of fight. He starts off like a certain type of criminal. He kind of fights all crime.
Sort of like The Amazing Spider-Man, but I think it's more tastefully done than The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, tomato. I'm just saying kind of similar.
I'm just saying, like with The Amazing Spider-Man, if they actually didn't drop that plot line like a lead balloon
you're right.
through the movie.
Right about that. So let's see. So a few minor things. Again, this scene's pretty simple, but it's a few things I want to hit just to keep track of. I noticed this. We changed the mask, and again, 3 months later, and we're seeing these really subtle touches of Bruce evolving kind of what he's doing here. And again, we're going to keep doing that throughout this season, where he's changed the mask. He had a very conservative, ski mask with the triangular eyes. We got at the end of last season. Now he has like more. There's a little bit more face in there, kind of more of a Batman-shaped mouth on the mask. Mm-hmm. Again, we're getting these very slight upgrades. We get a really cool fight scene, so we're seeing that Bruce has definitely gotten better at this. I mean, he was pretty good at when we saw him at the end of the last season. Now he's doing very well. I mean, guys pulling guns, he's doing well against himself. Let's see. Importantly, and this is something I really want to hit, and this is going to be really important, I think, thematically tied into this season, at the very least with our main villain we're starting this season with. When Bruce he went up against these thugs who were trying to mug these nice people walking down the streets of Gotham, these thugs were not afraid of him.
Yeah, and I think we kind of get that visually with how short Bruce is compared to them too. Like he's still got a long way to go in terms of intimidation.
Exactly. We see he's kind of putting on somewhat of a Batman voice. He was getting a little, he's trying to differentiate his voice, kind of be authoritative. But again, I love that we hit that. Tiki, that's such an important point to hit. And again, something it's so funny. Well, I can't tell you that yet, but it's really funny. We do something, again, it's attaching to something we kind of get in Phantasm, where, again, that's the thing of the proto-Batman. It's a guy who, he has, like, the makings of Batman, but he doesn't have the bat imagery to scare people. So that's the key fault in the proto-Batman that we're addressing right on the start here. I love it.
Right.
So, okay, then we have our big plot point that, of course, is with the Penguin here. So basically, after Bruce dispatches with these guys, he again, importantly, he's young, he's new at it, and importantly, they're knocked out. He unmasked because it's kind of a dramatic thing to do, and I had more issue with it the first time I watched. I like this episode a lot better on the rewatch, by the way. So I want to make that clear. He discovers that he is carrying a license for crime, approved by the Penguin.
Yeah, which of course leads to a whole mess of questions,
which we'll get to in the mayor scene. I'll outline what the whole license is about, but importantly. Last thing is that Ra's al Ghul watches from behind, unbeknownst to Bruce.
All right, so next scene is Dragon. We get Rickrolled.
In a manner of speaking.
No, I'd say it's pretty much.
Yes, you're right. We do.
Okay, so this is a really fun scene. Basically, a group of robbers shows up to a wedding. I love how they're chastising the groom for being a cheapskate with the ring. And then, oh man.
I knew you were going to love this scene.
Our dear friend Victor Zsasz shows up, and Dragon, can I just say, I am so happy with how they're using Zsasz this season.
We've been really sparing with Zsasz, honestly, for the last 2 seasons, because he disappeared like a quarter of the way through the second season. And last time we saw Zsasz, to my recollection, was when there was a hit put out on Jim Gordon for an episode. It's the last time we saw Zsasz.
Right.
So Zsasz, he's very fun, and again, he's more present as the intermediary for Penguin's licenses. He's kind of enforcing that criminals get license, go to Penguin for license for crime, or else Zsasz will kill him.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, in this scene, I love how we continue the running gag of Zsasz just very casually introducing himself. He's just like, "Hi."
Yes. Yeah. So something we should hit here. We want to talk about our gang here. Like these guys are important in this first episode here. Our gang of Merton and Grady.
Sure, of course. Merton being played by not Steve Buscemi, but his brother Michael Buscemi.
Yeah, kind of the long-haired, crazier-looking one, and we have Grady, who initially I want to hit with Grady. The main reason I have to delineate these guys. So Grady's the one we got in all the marketing. He's the one who says Crane, that guy. Grady, my other nickname for him would be Mr. Exposition. He's all over this episode. It's an issue I have against the episode, but I'm questioning if it's the episode being self-aware or not. If it's the show being self-aware, because it's basically. In this episode, the thing I noticed that we're really addressing that the status quo has changed within 3 months. The show Tiki, would you agree the show feels a little different than it's usually been in the past 3 seasons with this episode here?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes, I would agree.
Yeah, I'm not saying like a full overhaul. I'm just saying things feel different.
I mean, I definitely think the Penguin stuff is a little bit like the Penguin license stuff. I don't know. It's a bit more out of nowhere than I'm used to seeing from this.
And that's what I'm saying to you. That out of nowhere feeling is kind of what is what I'm getting at. And basically, what I feel is that the show is trying to address that with this guy. Basically, and it's so funny. Batman Under the Red Hood had the same kind of character. They had a guy saying, "Hey, look, it's Nightwing. You know, he used to be Robin." There's always that. It's that guy. It's like that one criminal who has to be Mr. Exposition. And Grady does that in spades all over this episode because essentially he says, "Hey, that's Victor Zsasz. That's Penguin's top. That's Penguin's top hitman." And he does it all over the place. It's like I don't know if it's self-aware, if it's a problem. Anyway, so it blows off. I guess Merton's blows off Merton's finger to prove his point. That's what Zsasz does. Basically showing that he means business. This license, they're saying, "Hey, we're not kicking anything over that creep." To the Penguin, it's like, "Hey, they're criminals without licenses," which again, I'll outline the specifics.
And then for a second, the bride is just super appreciative of Zsasz, but then Zsasz
he ran off the robbers. Hooray! Oh, don't thank me, because those guys do have a license.
Best wedding ever.
Great line by Zsasz. It's great.
Again, we haven't even gone to the whole Christmas morning scene yet, which I can't wait for.
Which again, it's also just he's so darn pleasant. He just loves taking. This is the kind of stuff that makes me love a character like Deadpool. I love characters in this position who love what they do.
Oh, I hear
you.
He
loves what he does, and Zsasz, in kind of the same vein, he loves what he does. He's saying Mazel Tov. The guy enjoys life. Victor Zsasz is the guy who wants to. Not only does he want to kill people, he wants a muffin along the way. He's just that kind of guy. So let's get to the big mayor scene. So unfortunately, Richard Kind, I guess, has been supplanted as mayor in these past 3 months, which means, I don't know, maybe it was like a scheduling conflict. I guess Richard Kind was unavailable.
Yeah, so that's disappointing. I kind of wish they'd at least give some sort of explanation besides it's 3 months later.
Yeah, you're right, Tiki. An explanation would have been preferred. I think the story reason being, I guess, because we're only one episode in. My guess is that we're going to do something with this whole, Jim Gordon working his way up the commissioner, and these two guys are going to be kind of a reason for that, possibly. I don't know. So we have Mayor Burke. That's the new guy. Just he's okay. He's no Richard Kind.
I mean, let's face it. No one's going to be Richard Kind. It's basically going to be like J.K. Simmons and J. Jonah Jameson. It's like no one's going to fill those shoes. Whoever they get as mayor in the future.
All right, let's see. So we have Mayor Burke and the commissioner who has still not been given a name, which does not bode well.
Commissioner.
Yep, just he has. I tried looking into. He's not. Obviously, he's not Loeb because we had Loeb. And
right.
Yeah, it's new commissioner. Yeah, we spent all the third season morning. Well, again, they fired that commissioner. So who's the new commissioner now? And of course, Sarah Essen's dead. What happened? Yeah, we have a captain. We have Barnes. Okay, that's good.
By all accounts, I think Bullock should be the commissioner at this point.
No, I think Bullock's a good captain. We still need a commissioner. Anyway, well, now we have a commission. We don't know the guy at all. Anyway, moving forward. So basically, the
guy spends his Friday nights going out with Harvey Dent and Montoya.
Yep, just their bar hopping buddies. Anyway, so Mayor Burke and the commissioner meet Penguin. Again, Penguin, who basically we learn in this scene that Penguin has cut crime in half with his licensing proposal. Essentially, this is it's kind of a off the table, unofficial law that's been struck between these three guys, which is interesting.
What's interesting about this setup, Dragon?
It kind of reminds you of Long Halloween.
Well, I haven't read Long Halloween.
Well, I mean, the Dark Knight, even the Dark Knight had this element of Long Halloween.
Yes, I was going to say the Dark Knight.
That's what I'm sorry. That's what I was getting. I thought you knew that one was pulled from.
Well, I mean, I know the Dark Knight was inspired by Long Halloween.
Just that scene in particular is absolutely
Long Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay, but essentially, I thought this was cool because essentially, forget about Long Halloween. I'm just going to use the Dark Knight example where,
Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, of course, it was Harvey Dent who was essentially cracking down on organized crime, which was dropping the crime rate. And here it's basically the opposite. It's Penguin sort of, unionizing organized crime, getting the same result. I thought that was an interesting sort of yin-yang situation there.
Another thing, of course, is that we we also have the Penguin as the pseudo Batman for the show. Well, of course, Batman is still kind of being primed and ready.
Right, which is very weird to think about.
Well, again, when I say pro Batman, I mean as like kind of a Batman type. In that Jim Gordon, when he was going around, he was kind of having Batman-esque figures.
Oh God, yeah, Gordon had that whole phase. Yes,
he did, and importantly, Penguin is someone who does care about Gotham. He was kind of the immigrant who kind of made Gotham his home, and at the same time, Penguin is sort of like kind of the anti-hero version of Batman for this show in many ways. Of course, very much so. He is. I mean, villain first and foremost, but I'm saying he's kind of he does care about Gotham, much like various villains in the show. Everyone cares about Gotham in their own way. Anyway, but yes, the Dark Knight parallel is really interesting. Just we have a commissioner, we have the mayor serving in kind of the Harvey Dent capacity, and the Penguin serving as kind of the pseudo Batman with this unofficial kind of uber corrupt deal to help reduce crime, which again is noble but very very corrupt.
And so Penguin's like stressing that, like if the GCPD sees people with the licenses committing crimes, do not arrest them.
Yeah, just cut them loose. And that's essentially what this meeting is. Just basically, Penguin's trying to make it, essentially trying to make it official as much as he can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, because obviously this would be a hard thing to pass and make legal. And basically, Penguin wants it enforced. That's what Penguin's trying to. He knows it still has to be unofficial, because no one would say, the minute that anyone hears this is like an official thing, it would all go out the window. So essentially, folks, the license works like this. The license has like a few check boxes of smuggling, robbery, murder, blackmail, grand theft, arson, kidnapping, and larceny, essentially. And the idea is Penguin will, he'll sign off on you pay a fee. He will, he'll pay a fee. You pay a fee. You give him a cut of whatever your crime will return. And basically, Penguin has the best of the best, like the people he can control. Basically, all the Victor Zazzes of the criminal underworld will be working for him and making sure there's no mess, there's no chaos. Basically, there's no Jeromes. He's trying to breed Gotham with more Victor Zazzes, men who follow orders, versus kind of crazy Jeromes who will burn the city down.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is, it's a smart plan. You got to give him that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is definitely clever, and again, he wants to enforce, especially with the GCPD, given he knows there's at least one cop in the GCPD who is not going to take to this.
Oh yeah, and speaking of that one cop,
yes. Oh, by the way, the 1%er thing. The mayor is so bad at bargaining; he just gets like 1%. They have to split it between them because he's such an idiot.
All right, so I like to call this next scene the most casual robbery ever.
I love this scene so much. It's a great one. This to me was like I love this reintroduction of Jim Gordon this season, especially after the big arc we had with him in season 3. I like that this is our way of introducing Gordon proper. It's like, okay, this is classic Jim Gordon, such a classic Gordon scene.
Hi, right Frank. Here. Morning, Jim.
Literally, Jim walks into a bar. Gordon walks into a bar. Sounds like a joke, I know. Walks into a bar. Frank's being robbed for, as Tiki said, the most casual robbery ever. The crook hands Jim his license, saying, "Hey, it's a proof about thing."
It's pretty much like the guy's treating it like this criminal is just
he's being
a usual transaction.
Like he's being carded or something at a bar.
Right.
And what's so funny here is, I love this. Like, I knew how the scene was going to go. Seeing Gordon's play it so reserved just cracked me up. See Mackenzie play it's like he knows exactly what he's going to do in this.
You have a license. Okay, then.
The minute he says Penguin, you know he's doomed, because of course it's not going to sweeten the deal at all, given all the stuff between Gordon and the Penguin. So then we have just this bit, hey, yeah, I got a license. Oh, you do you? Then we have this really cool takedown where he slams him into the bar, and then he cuffs him and he orders his coffee to go. Yes! Gordon, not only is Gordon sober at the beginning of this season, he's back to his classic bad self, man.
Oh, yeah. God, that's right. He was in such a bad place.
That's what I'm saying. We start off with him strong, and this is such a great reintroduction for Gordon this season, man.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so then the next scene, Gordon brings the crook in, and the cops are not pleased. And again, we're kind of, I love this thing with Gotham, where we pay off a lot of ideas that we have set up, where again, we're kind of back in the season 1 position, where Gordon's bringing crooks in, and the cops are like, oh, God, what's this guy doing? He's like, we have a system here, and he's throwing it out the window.
Right.
Like, they're all like, oh, boy, and it's a guy with a license. Why can't he just enjoy the simple things?
I think what this is it's fitting very comfortably into the year 1 stuff, as I said.
You're right. Okay, I mean, what's going on with Bullock, Tiki?
Okay, let's see. So Bullock is having a conversation with Mr. Penn. Now, what? How would you describe Mr. Penn's role, Dragon?
Mr. Penn,
Not
essentially,
Sean Penn.
just Mr. Penn.
Yes.
Mr.
Not
Penn.
Penn Gillette.
No, not Alfred's great-grandfather, Penn from the Pennyworth clan. No. Just very simply, Mr. Penn. He is the guy who Penguin has, as we learned later in the episode, Penguin is the guy who kind of he has the guidelines for the licenses, basically, all the money management stuff. And Mr. Penn's the guy who draws up the licenses and like all the legalese. He's the one who draws up and makes the reality. He keeps track of all the records. Just Mr. Penn's the essentially he's the financial guy, but he's more of the organizer. He keeps track of everything. So Mr. Penn, he's the paperwork side of it. He's the paperwork side of licenses.
Makes sense.
He's the crime stats. That's what Mr. Penn is. He's all the bureaucrat. He's the bureaucratic side of this license business. So he's basically sending a message from the Penguin to Bullock to be on the lookout for Jim Gordon. Like he says, "Hey."
Then I love how as Gordon walks in, he gives like a snooty, like he literally like raises his nose at Gordon.
He does. He's
well,
so prissy.
He
thinks he's so untouchable because hey, Penguin's new license plate. I'm so important. Ooh. I know Jim Gordon. He's gonna try to complicate things, but I talked to his boss. That's what I did. So, Bullock says, "Hey, I'll handle Jim Gordon. Don't you worry about that." Of course, he handles Gordon after he tells the guy to get out of his office. Bullock essentially tells Gordon about the kind of the corrupt order of compliance. And basically, it's unofficially come down from the commissioner. That's what's been reaffirmed as well by Mr. Penn. Mr. Penn's kind of reaffirmed it. It's come down from the commissioner. I'm sorry,
Bullock's making some good points, though. He's saying, like, look, there's been no deaths by, no police fatalities in the past 3 months,
Exactly. Gordon's not down for this, but Bullock's seeing the upside.
Sure.
Okay, Jim, I love this. Jim gets Bullock's point. He says, look, Harvey, I get it. He gets the benefit of this at the same time, and I love this as Gordon's kind of stance on it so far. Hope it gets developed more, but I love this as kind of the opening stance, is that he can't stand a Gotham that looks to the Penguin for protection over the GCPD, which is a very fair statement. And again, it's like putting your hands in the pockets of crime versus, kind of what's supposed to be law and order. And again, after all the stuff they went through, you kind of get the GCPD in good standing.
So basically, the longer the Penguin has influence over everything, the harder it's going to be to rid the city of his influence.
The Penguin's already built a tremendous amount of clout in Gotham. He became mayor for the first season. I mean, come on.
Right.
So let's see. So, Bullock. All right. So basically, Bullock he very genuinely. I love this how genuine Donald Logue's acting is here. He very genuinely pleads to Jim as a friend. He says, "Look, Jim, just stay clear of the crooks. I'm not saying don't book criminals, don't book robbers. Just try to steer clear of the ones with the licenses. All right."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see.
All right. Meanwhile, at Wayne Manor.
Yes. So we have a classic
detective work.
Tiki, this feels so much like a classic kind of Bruce and Alfred scene in the Batcave. It really does.
No, I gotta tell you, Dragon, the Bruce Wayne stuff is definitely coming to its own. I think they've really earned this 3 seasons in. I think they've really built this up, and it feels supernatural.
It does, and Tiki, this is such a classic scene where basically Bruce or again, just to fill it in here, just the Batman contemplates the next move, and Alfred.
It's basically like Batman and Alfred kind of debating what the next move should be.
Exactly, Tiki, I've seen this scene so many times.
Right.
See it realized, man, it was so cool. It's like, yeah, we're finally at that place where Bruce, and it's even it's like either Batman at the computer monitor, in this case, Bruce in the chair, is just saying, he's like. I'm saying, well, how do we proceed, Master Bruce? And well, Penguin's getting his licenses out somehow. Essentially, that's kind of what's being talked about. More specifically, basically, Alfred is establishing that, and again, this is kind of filling. This is like a natural way of working in the exposition. Basically, establishing that why are we doing all this training, Master Bruce? We're preparing for Ra's al Ghul's return, preparing for Ra's return. Because again, Ra's, of course, is responsible for Bruce impaling Alfred, which is still kind of stuck with them.
Yeah, a little bit.
And Bruce feels very responsible. And I love this as kind of like an underlining thing for Bruce's mission, is that Bruce does feel responsible for almost killing Gotham. You know, he didn't push the button, but he allowed it to get to that place because he blamed himself because he was mind controlled. But at the same time, it was still him doing all this. He almost destroyed Gotham, and he knows he can make a difference in the city and kind of make up for that.
Mm-hmm.
And Alfred warns him again. I love Alfred having. I'm sorry, Dave. Do you want to take us through the Alfred bit of this here?
No, go ahead.
Because Alfred has this kind of classic Alfred wisdom here, where he warns that having two objectives is kind of like it's an impossible thing to do. Here, it's kind of an impossible thing to achieve, like two really important objectives: whole Ra's al Ghul mission versus hey, let's stop the Penguin and all this crime going on in Gotham. Bruce is convinced that he can handle both. Again, a classic Bruce Alfred setup. Like, Master Bruce, is there anything wrong? No, Alfred, I'm fine. Later. Oh, Alfred, what was I thinking? Oh, well, Master Bruce, you can get through this. Essentially, that's kind of the crux of like about 70 years of Batman comics.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. At Arkham, we have the gang of robbers paying a visit to the Warden, I believe, right?
It's Warden Reed. So we have a new Warden at Arkham. We've kind of addressed this since Hugo Strange is no longer running Arkham.
Of course.
And they are going to get Jonathan Crane.
Yep, just making a quick underhanded deal to basically sell out Jonathan Crane to these guys.
By the way, Ben McKenzie was looking really forward to Jonathan Crane coming back because I guess he really liked those Scarecrow episodes.
Yeah, they were solid. Let's see, we get established that the Scarecrow that we saw at the end of the last Scarecrow episode has
been tormenting him constantly.
Yeah, which is, like, I gotta say, that's still to this day one of my favorite endings to a Gotham episode.
The Scarecrow arc, I was really harsh on that first one way back when we did it. I changed my tune on the second episode, but I mean, the grand scheme, those two episodes are really strong with the Scarecrow, though. They were good episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jonathan Crane's been sketching a Scarecrow on his floor.
Mm-hmm. So back at the Crane residence, Jonathan's kind of panicking about not being there after dark.
Because let's remember, this is the same farm that we basically all that traumatic stuff happened to him.
Of course.
His father got shot. First of all, his father injected him with an overdose of fear toxin, which is leading him to his current condition. He was the reason he's so traumatized by the Scarecrow is when he was injected, he was staring right up at a Scarecrow when he was injected with all that fear toxin. And then his father was shot to death by the GCPD. So all of that went on at this location. That's why he really doesn't want to be here, and your heart goes out to this kid. I mean, the actor who's portraying Jonathan Crane, I think that it was great that they brought him back because they could have recast him. I'm so glad we brought him back, and I thought he was because you empathize with the kid, and I think we empathize with him even more in this episode. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic origin story for Scarecrow. I really do.
Yeah, it's great. It adds so many levels to why he's so fear obsessed, down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're taking Crane to the farm to find it, because he knows where the father hid all the other vials of fear toxin and as well as like the formulas and all the stuff to make the fear toxin. Finds under like a little floorboard. He desperately wants to leave. Begs and pleads, and then he's pushed around and forced by these guys to make more. You were your daddy's little lab assistant. You're going to help us make more.
So basically, they're like the Nazis in season 6 of Breaking Bad, and Jonathan Crane is Jesse, essentially.
Essentially, but believe it or not, they're meaner than the Nazis.
No, which is,
I mean, say what you will, but I mean, Todd brought Jesse ice cream.
Oh, God.
He did.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, these people are pretty unnecessarily cruel.
Yep, and it might seem like the idea in Gotham it's getting Gotham kind of breeding cruelty, and that's just kind of like the climate of after all the craziness that's going on in Gotham, it's just breeding a ruthless type of criminal that's just informing an even darker level of madness with the super criminals they are having a hand in breeding.
Sure. But I like this idea that they leave the Scarecrow with Jonathan essentially to force him to stay there.
Oh yeah, it's sadistic. And they torment him with that Scarecrow in 7. And again, that is the same exact Scarecrow from that field.
Yup.
The one again, the very first one that he stared at that gave him his fears is, "You don't understand. You don't understand." This poor kid. So then we have, and this to me, it didn't pan out the way I thought it would, but I still love this visual, Teak, and I love how it fits into the context of the show. We have basically now our guys, now the gang, the Grady and Merton gang. They are, shame we never got like, we didn't really have room to give them a name or anything, but it's fine. The point is, they're very. God. Doesn't have the same ring to it like Dooley's Boys, but you know. Anyway, so we have the very theatrical Red Hood-esque bank robbery going on here with men in gas masks. And again, for people using, this is the first time the fear toxin's been used in a gas form like we're traditionally used to, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it in kind of that Gotham context of, hey, they're bank robbers. Again, I love the idea of the Red Hood just kind of bred in this idea of the theatrical bank robbers with a gimmick. And now we have these guys, bank robbers, using fear gas. And again, basically something that gives them an edge over the average licensed criminal. Even if the criminals are the best of the best, they don't stand a chance against this fear gas. And again, from what I understand, the closest thing we've ever seen to something like this has been the animated series. And you saw this one, too. Like Scarecrow, he's usually the guy who gasses people, and the men just letting they rob behind him. Like the henchmen have never been trusted with the gas. So this is kind of a cool idea with that.
Right.
It's a cool visual. So yeah, we have some trippy fear effects going on.
Yeah, my favorite fear effect comes near the end of the episode. We'll get to that.
Oh, sure. But yeah, we establish, demons, definitely you guys are weak.
I love how Bullock's like, yeah, I'll get him. We'll get him.
So basically, we're at the same location after those guys that kind of split with the cash. Jim and Bullock are on the scene. They're kind of putting together what's happened. Gordon's smart enough to realize, this gang's sticking at the Penguin, with all license stuff. And you say, why would they, commit such a public crime and such a reckless crime, which is not, basically not following the limitations of the license. And then basically Bullock kind of points out Jim just trying to push a boulder up the mountain, essentially, this episode of like, hey, Zaz is going to be after him. We really don't have to get involved here. We just got to wait. We know how good Zaz is. He tried to kill you last season.
Exactly.
Again, just Bullock points out, it's really pointless. I mean, you're just trying to do is to make a point about the GCPD being needed. I mean, and Bullock's still thinking the GCPD is necessary, but at the same time, he's down for this. Bullock's more on the side of embracing this law.
Which, like you said, I like the full circle quality of kind of like we very much got in the characters back to the point they were in season 1 in kind of a natural sort of way. Yeah,
it's neat. And of course, Jim's just sticking to it despite Bullock's advice against it. And of course, Jim has the theory as a lead. Of course, remembering from season 1. Mm-hmm. That Gerald Crane was doing stuff with fear toxin. These people are having hallucinations of things they're afraid of. Of course, sounds very much like Gerald Crane, but Gerald Crane's dead. Not that means anything in this town anymore. But Gerald Crane's. I love that line from Bullock, by the way. And of course, Jim, who was in that last scene we had with Jonathan, so he's the one who he's like the only person who absolutely would know this, aside from just Jim telling Bullock. Because Jim felt bad for this kid. Just him remembering, but his son, it could be his son. Jonathan Crane.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, they get the run around at Arkham by the new Warden. Again, what do you think about this new Warden's acting style, by the way?
He's really loonies.
What do you think about him?
He's fine. I don't know. He doesn't really stick out to me all that much.
All right, just curious. He's kind of funny to me. That's all.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, basically he's giving them the runaround about, checking the records, and you maybe basically suggesting that Arkham's run more efficiently in the GCPD. Of course, he took bribes to basically sell off a patient, so this guy's not the barometer of anything. But at the same time, this kind of reminds me of some classic episodes where, it's kind of comics, especially some episodes of the animated series where Scarecrow would escape Arkham. Scarecrow would escape Arkham, and they'd always try to hide it. Scarecrow would be the one to hide his escape really well.
Uh-huh.
So
I
let's see.
The intimidation that Bullock and Gordon give this guy.
Lay it out.
Jim, how would you describe Victor Zaz? You know what this actually kind of reminded me of? This reminded me of, this is Huel. Huel, how you feeling? Reasonably. No, I'm sorry. Are you happy, Huel? Reasonably. What would make you unhappy? This little mofo not doing what he's told. It's kind of like that. It's kind of got a flair to that a little bit. Let's see. Victor Zsasz. Well, he's a homicidal maniac and a sadist.
And basically, they said they'll sell the Warden out to the Penguin so that he'll be killed along the way. And I love this delivery here. Just Reed is just saying and he's saying so dryly. The guy has such a kind of a dry on the nose delivery. Where it says, "They forced me." Basically, they forced me to let him go. That's just ridiculous. Basically, now they have some information, which leads them to find Grady and Merton. Mm-hmm. And this I thought was clever. You don't really see this that often. This kind of, we're subverting the tropes here, where basically they kind of play dead or unconscious, where they walk in there and basically get the upper hand because of that.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah.
Clever. Yeah, it's simplistic clever, too. So let's see. So then Jim Gordon takes so much punishment in this episode. He keeps getting kicked and hitting on this floor.
Again, very year one Gordon.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. So then basically they're saying they're staking their claim for the working. Essentially, they're staking their claim for the working criminal against Penguin with this new level of organized crime. Mm. And it's so funny. I love how Bullock just kind of tears down here. Basically, they think they're better than the Penguin, therefore they are. They're not killing him. They're just like, hey, we're just the working tips who steal the money. We don't intend on killing anyone. We don't need no stinking license. Mm-hmm. Which explains why they don't kill him there and they escape. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that. Just kind of like the honor among thieves, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so we get Selena in the alleyway. This is a scene we've seen a lot in the trailers. Basically, she very impressively takes out these guys, just to get
5 men with
up on her.
Yeah, that's it. Really well choreographed.
Don't turn your back on a guy unless you know he's dead. Otherwise, not bad.
And of course, the pizza roar.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you this. Tabitha, she's never really wowed us in the show. But we've gotten to accept her. Back in the beginning, we really weren't. I had hopes for her, and they really weren't panning out in season 2. And then season 3, honestly, with the Butch stuff, when she lost her hand, got a re-sewn on, that's when she started to become, okay, Tabitha's fine.
Tabitha, I feel like, is the type of character, she has no right to have not been killed off by this point, just in terms of the story, but I don't know, it's, I'm still not a major fan of her.
I know, but we can tolerate her,
she's serviceable.
Right? That's the thing.
She's that much.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah, so.
There's really nothing to write home about, but she's fine.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, speaking of writing home, let's go home with Tabitha. So they're here, and they are greeted with pizza in tow. They are greeted by Victor Zsasz. He has a non-violent warning for them, which is nice. Hey, peace. I come in peace. And essentially,
show up at the opening of the club, get your license, move things over, tomato.
Yeah,
kind of an or else kind of deal.
Exactly. And then she's saying, well, why would I? Basically, she doesn't want any part of it. And he did. I'm just trying to. Oh yeah, he took my club. Well, you did kill his mother, and you kind of ruined.
And you tried to kill him.
Right, and you tried to kill him. So let's just bygones be bygones. Well, again, I think it's a fair argument, to be honest. I mean, they didn't kill his mother. She did kill his mother.
Right.
Anyway, so then we have this fun gag at the end there. Basically, the invitation's been sent, and basically Penguin wants to let kind of the waters calm, I guess. And we have this hilarious line, very akin to the muffin thing from season 1 that Tiki and I love very much.
Oh yes.
Where Tiki, how's it go?
You tell it.
Basically, as is about to leave, noticing the pizza, is that pepperoni? So Lane just knocks the lid down to make sure. No, you can't. So he's communicating visually. You can't have any. And just Zsasz goes, oh.
You can't catch a break when it comes to snacks.
He's so nice and so professional, yet no one will share their Tiki, no one will share their snacks with poor Victor Zsasz.
Oh, okay, so Dragon, as we get into this next scene, which I know you're going to go gaga over, I just want to point out that we have about 20 minutes until we hit the hour point in this podcast, so just make it as brisk as you can.
All right, also, I guess one last one. We'll note his, again, we're kind of like a year 1 Catwoman vibe with the crappy apartment, Selina wanting to work her way up the ladder. Again, very much like what happened in year one. Again, there is a very year one influence on this season, as it's been foretold by the people who work on the show. Tabitha refuses to work for the Penguin at this point in time. So, big scene. Okay. Jim and Bruce.
Late at night, and freaking Bruce makes a bat entrance.
Oh, God. I love being the big... I love the scenes I've looked forward to most in any Batman comic are always the Gordon Batman scenes, and this scene
much in the same way that the Alfred scene was a classic Bruce and Alfred scene. This is classic Bruce and Gordon at this point, or Batman and Gordon. You know,
like, this feels so off the page, or more accurate. It feels like almost like that first scene they had. Well, that second scene they had in Batman Begins, where he was taking out the trash and he has that chat with Batman. It feels identical. That sort of
for sure.
Sort of scene. So basically, and I love this. We're on the stage. We're on that great proscenium stage. Like that lifted one at the GCPD. It's like the perfect. It's like the closest. Like, we're getting to the rooftop. We're getting to the rooftop.
Yeah, absolutely. And and it's like Bruce's Batman, but he doesn't know it yet, and Gordon doesn't know it yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've noticed that with Mizzou's, how he plays. He's been playing Bruce all this time, by the way. He's always been playing Bruce. The idea that Bruce died when his parents died that night. But the thing is, through all these seasons, all these episodes, he's been trying to realize who he is now and who he is. Basically, it's like a Batman who doesn't know he's Batman yet, but that's all that's left. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of like he's playing the discovery of it all this time, which is kind of interesting. So, point is, he's on stage, the bat entrance, which is fantastic. I love every single thing about this scene. They play just like the classic meeting scenes. He shows Jim the license that he shows Jim the license that he got off one of Penguin's henchmen, just say he found it downtown. Let's see.
Basically, right. It's like Jim's kind of trying to go over, it's like he knows that Bruce kind of feels the same way that he does about the licenses, and yet he's kind of forced to stay within.
Like Jim gives Bruce like the official BS kind of like we're allowing crime is somewhat legal now excuse, basically saying, we have to be easy on the guys with the licenses. Of course, do you believe in that? Not really. And I love that smile that Ben McKenzie gives. And that to me is like a hopeful smile, just showing that, this is why Bruce kind of looked up to this guy in the early seasons. This kind of thing where, are you going, Bruce asking, are you going along with that? Are you going along with this BS line? Not really. And again, that's the Batman-Gordon relationship there, Tiki, is that Batman sees hope in Jim Gordon right there. It's so beautiful. And Bruce has, and this is great. And again, this is like Bruce bringing the perspective that Gordon is considered everything except kind of that one thing. And Batman, again, that Sherlock Holmesian vibe, brings that one thing where Bruce brings up kind of the master list theory, that he believes there is some sort of master list, which, if this is a license, has a number on it, which means those numbers are going to, like, someone's keeping track of these numbers, which would intimate past crimes that are on record as well as future crimes. You get the list, past and present. It's kind of, you almost have a Minority Report thing going on.
Yeah, so Gordon basically says,
he wants to help, but the judges are going along with it, which means he can't officially he can't do that officially.
Which, of course, opens the door to some corporate espionage on Bruce Wayne's part.
Which is great, by the way, because I love the framing here, Tiki, because Bruce is like in the foreground, Jim's in the background, like a classic Batman Gordon rooftop scene. As Bruce says, as he gets the light bulb. I see. Yes! Jim says he's not giving up, but he can only track the unlicensed... Jim says, look, I'm not giving up, Bruce, but I can only track the unlicensed gang that I'm working on right now. And of course, Bruce suggests, why not use the Penguin to lead you to them? Which, again, I love that Gordon does use this suggestion. Mm-hmm. Look, Bruce, if I could, I would. And again, Bruce... gives him the idea there, and he does. Bruce gets an idea there about going to the Penguin himself. If Gordon can't go directly to the Penguin, then Bruce is. So they both get the same idea here, which is nice. And then we have this beautiful bat exit here where he says, good to see you. It was good to see you. It was good to see you, detective. And he invites him to dinner. And basically, as Gordon is in the process of turning around, that sounds good, Bruce. I was thinking about, and then bat exit. Because he was thinking about tonight, maybe, and then he turns around, bat exit. Oh my God, it's so... Because the sense of this might be the first real Bat egg, so that's going to maybe give Gordon an inkling of who Batman is, which is amazing.
I would say canonically this is the first Bat X that we've gotten. Like, we might have gotten one or two of them with Selina, but this is
we haven't had them with Gordon. We haven't had them between Bruce and Gordon, so I know that much. And okay, I was touched my heart so much. Okay, let's go. Take to the press conference.
Okay. So, first of all, I love the setup of this, where like Penguin is just trying to show off his club, and everyone's asking him political questions.
The Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah, of course, the Iceberg Lounge. We finally got there, Dragon. We're getting into classic Batman stuff. Now, Penguin, of course, makes his comparison between Caesar and, Pax Romano and Pax Penguina, which is where the episode title comes from, of course.
Which basically means peace, like Roman peace, in this case, Penguin peace.
Right. So, basically, long story short, it's, this guy is, he's just really, really eating up his own ego at this point. And so he shows off Nigma, and I love this excuse, Dragon. I love this excuse.
I know, right? Go.
So basically, Nigma had a rare brain disease, and he was basically going to be put into cryogenic freezing Walt Disney style, and on his dying moments, in his last moments of consciousness, he was like, and I love this because it's
such a great insult to Edward Nigma. It's like,
hey, hide me away, Oswald. Put me out there for the people.
One, it's so absurd and funny, but at the same time, it's like the great insult to the Riddler. Like, hey, you're insulting his intelligence and he can't do anything.
Right.
That's so brilliant. That's the ultimate screw you to the Riddler. So Jim enters for a chat, and again, I think Bruce is responsible for why Jim did this, because again, Jim really shouldn't.
I like how Jim is like blowing up Penguin's spot right in front of the.
I know, yeah, it's just so great that Jim is being really loud when he defames the Penguin with this speech, but of course, when he gets real deep in person, he then whispers to him, which is perfect. Jim loudly informs Penguin about the gang that's gunning for him. And he whispers to him, "You had a nice run, Oswald." And again, I love that all that history we have between Jim and Penguin. And now, after killing Fish Mooney, things are really tense between the two of them. It's not just like kind of like a Rick from Casablanca thing anymore.
Right.
So basically, Penguin has a beautiful retort here where he says, points out Jim's irrelevancy, and he promises that to soon show Gotham that Penguin keeps it safe. And Penguin keeps it safe.
Sarcastic. Always good to see you, old friend.
Yeah, that's a great line. Again, the old friend of it all there. Again, all that history. Again, I love the payoffs of Gotham, Tiki. It's such a great element of this show.
It kind of makes me realize with the old friend that this version of Penguin he kind of has a little bit of Gatsby in him a little bit. I never really thought of about that before now.
Well, with all the literary stuff, maybe that's the next.
Yeah.
I could buy that. Well, Gatsby, he started off successful and he was kind of doomed, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I guess that could be kind of our new literary thing for the Penguin so far. I mean, we had never listed he's kind of successful, Gatsby.
Wait, so would that mean that
this season we're starting off
is all about the lost love, like the one that got away? So
he lost Riddler. Yeah, he lost Nigma. It is Gatsby.
Okay.
Oswald, all I'm going to say,
literary adventure continues.
So all I'm going to say, folks, just literary adventures. We've been attaching various kind of literary stuff to the Penguin because the show has been mirroring very great pieces of literature for the Penguin story. We've had like Cinderella. We've had. We've had Cinderella. We've had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We've had a bit of Psycho. We've had a lot of fun stuff with the Penguin in terms of our literary things. Also, Clockwork Orange, too.
Clockwork Orange, yes.
So I think that's about it. It's not in the right order, but maybe down the line just that. Anyway, so moving on. So again, after that little visit with the Penguin, we have the gang. Yes.
Yeah, they're watching the news footage of Penguin threatening them.
Jonathan Crane finishes the batch for him, and he pleads for them to just get rid of the Scarecrow. At the very least, close the door.
The most unnecessary act of cruelty in the episode.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, again, a part of it is just Gotham breeds these sort of guys, but at the same time, you're absolutely right, dude. It's just these guys are so cruel.
Like, oh no, you just did exactly what we wanted you to do, so we're just gonna lock you in the closet with the thing that terrifies you the most because we're dicks.
Yeah, but we need a babysitter for you. And again, in some demented way, he's trying to help him, saying facing his fears, but again, he doesn't quite know any of the history associated with this
Oh
fear.
yeah.
So poor Jonathan Gray's going to be locked in there with most thing he fears most in this life.
Mm-hmm.
So Penguin's talking to Enigma, very kind of in
Oh, I
soliloquy
love
with.
this. This is one of my favorite little moments.
Go on.
It makes me wonder, my friend, which one of us is truly frozen? And then Ivy walks by him. He's like totally frozen.
I mean, yeah, I really like what Penguin's laying out there, and I think it's kind of it's a nice little written statement here that Enigma did teach him a lesson about burying his feelings, which allowed in burying his feelings with Enigma, he was allowed to rise to the ranks of kind of the Gatsby-esque ranks.
Uh-huh.
But at what cost? Again, hence the frozen gag. Tells Ivy to go somewhere else, which I wonder if that leads to her betrayal or not. It's like that
we're
one.
Get
That's
to that because I thought her betrayal was a little out of nowhere.
It is. It is. So yeah, we really got
like she barely has a speaking role in the episode, and then she
has.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is like she has one of two lines, and this is the first one.
Right.
So Jim prepares the men for the club sting operation. Basically, he knows some bad's going to go down at the clubs. When the gang arrives, we'll apprehend them. No muss, no fuss. Hooray for us. Unless, let's just say the rest of them are less than willing. And as Bullock points out, and again, Bullock's right here. It is a risky plan because it's a club populated filled with people for Jim just to make a point. Yeah, of course, Jim is in the right here. We can't just let this be settled this way. But again, the cops are really not thrilled.
Right. Then we get Jonathan locked in the closet with the Scarecrow, and some really cool fear toxin imagery with the Scarecrow basically like swallowing him is the best way I can describe it.
I love that we don't see this here. We're basically the Scarecrow I love that we don't see the Scarecrow talking.
Mm-hmm.
The idea here is that the Scarecrow has terrified Jonathan so much. He is in such a panic state that Jonathan kind of dies in this scene. His psychosis.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, metaphorically, absolutely.
That's a fascinating idea to me that they explored in this episode, Tiki. Is the idea that, very much like Bruce having the bat image kind of call out to him in a way. Jonathan has that with the thing he fears most, with the Scarecrow. And I love how we're paralleling kind of some classic Batman stuff with the Scarecrow here, which is really interesting. It's kind of a new spoke to the wheel I never considered before.
Mm-hmm. All right, so next scene, basically all you need to know about this next scene is, look, take the parking garage scene from Batman Year One, put it in a locker room, there you go.
This is a great Year One homage. The light Year One homage is a great one. Of course, different circumstances, but who cares? It's Year One. It's basically Jim, of course, so various fed up. And again, these aren't necessarily super corrupt cops. They're just really unhappy with Jim Gordon. So I mean, they are corrupt, but they are following orders technically. So they're not the same level of corruption from Year One. They're fed up with Jim kind of fighting again, kind of this easier again, this lower crime rate if we allow a little bit of corruption in the plan, which leads to an expected fight. I love how Jim was expecting this fight in the locker room, and he's just like, well, okay, who's first? He puts his gun on the. Again, Jim Gordon has a lot of really cool moments here, and basically Jim takes on 4 men. Again, initially he's doing well, but of course it's against 4 men. So, I mean, to quote Year One, I'm trained to take a green beret, but it has been a while.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, things do not look good for Jim as he's kind of bound by 2 men as the other ones are laying into him. So, unfortunately, Jim Gordon takes a lot of punishment this episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty usual for the Gordon character.
Oh, yeah, and of course with the Year One flair to it all. I don't mean just kind of say Year One is like an end-all be-all. It's just kind of cool to see it being pulled here and there. Again, like Season 3 did with Corval, so...
All right, so let's see. Next scene, we have basically the first proper Bruce Wayne and Penguin scene. They've been introduced before, but this is the first scene that really centers around their dynamic.
Tiki, to me, this scene communicates all the potential of this season for me. It really does. It communicates a lot of, okay, so we've established all this stuff, and these are like an interaction we have not really had before, because they met basically Alfred thanked him for saving him from Azrael. Bruce was in the scene, really. Like, Bruce may have said, like, oh, thank you, as well, but aside from that, that's all the only scene they had. Now they're actually, having a really great layered scene here where Bruce, and again, by the way, I found this out, so we should correct ourselves this season. The actual pronunciation of Mizzou's name is David Mizzou's.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. I was wild by it. It's, David.
Jeez.
It's David.
I never would have known.
So it's, Mizzou's for short, just, but David.
I'm surprised that the David thing is the one that we got wrong and not the Mizzou part.
I know, right? Because basically, Dukes with, like, Mizzou. But yeah, so David. I kid you not. That's who it is. Anyway, the point is, it's great seeing what Mizzou is doing this season. Of course, he's really tapping kind of the dual. He's having something I've always loved with Batman, where you have kind of like the Bruce Wayne kind of helping Batman out in the day. In this case, helping out the vigilante.
This whole episode has 3 quintessential Batman moments, and it has, like basically the Bruce Wayne and Alfred. It's not in the Batcave, but it's the same idea. Where they're investigating something. They have different philosophies about how to go about it. Then, of course,
the meeting scene.
The classic Bruce and Gordon scene, and then of course we have
Bruce Wayne detective
socialite.
Yes, the socialite and as well as detective, but yeah, socialite. Essentially here, so Bruce properly meets the Penguin for the second time. It's a really great layered scene where essentially. I love this too, by the way. The reason this scene is so great to have after all these episodes is that the Wayne murder, if you think back to it, Tiki, the Wayne murder created the Penguin because he rolled on Fish Mooney after the Wayne murder. So the Wayne murder is the reason the Penguin went on his journey.
Sure.
So these two characters really shaped each other's destiny, in respect, mainly Bruce shaping Penguin's destiny. Mm-hmm. So it's very classic business, socialite Bruce Wayne kind of chatting about.
I like how casually Bruce is able to lie about him being agreeable to the license. Like, if crime had been licensed and controlled 3 years ago, my parents would still be alive.
As well as the Enigma thing, too, just to throw Penguin off there. Again, it's like saying, when you do eventually thaw Enigma out, once you find a cure of the brain disease and he's remembering his own lie, like, oh, yes, of course, yes. Right. But Tiki, you're exactly right. It's just, it's a great lie with enough truth in there because, again, Penguin...
Exactly.
Because that's the benefit. That is the one benefit of this licensing, that Penguin... he's has to sign off on the murder side of it. And so far, there's no need for murder. That's like it'd be a way of preventing murder, at the very least, not having kind of random crime go on. Mm-hmm. As far as Penguin's concerned, that's what killed Wayne's. So yes, and again, Bruce sells he sells the Penguin on trusting.
He sells him on Bruce just kind of being like a curious onlooker to the whole thing.
Yes, he gains Bruce's trust, and that's.
Oh, Bruce,
that's impressive.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were trying to get me to incriminate myself. I love how playful he is when he says that.
He's like, these two guys, they've never really shared a proper scene together. They're playing so well off of each other, and he's just and again, like, to get Oswald Cobblepot of all people to trust you after one scene, that's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
So let's see. So he thanks him for what he's done. They ask about the license. Of course, it would have saved his parents. Then basically, eventually, Penguin just kind of tells him, like, Mr. Penn, Penguin lays out the guidelines. Mr. Penn enforces the license. He draws up the licenses.
Yep.
So basically, after that scene, so Bruce has what he needs. He has the information. He knows to target Mr. Penn next, but he then spies across the room. It's Selena Kyle.
Oh boy.
And basically with Selena, she is joined by, Zaz is kind of giving the business, hey, it's kind of a package deal. Where's your bigger sister in a way? Hey, where's Tabitha?
Your babysitter is the line.
Right. And then she, again, Selena's surprised that, hey, my mentor showed up. And she's surprised. Oh, you missed me. Ain't that cute? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. So after that...
We have Warden in the aftermath,
bloody nose after you're being beaten up. And I love that Bullock doesn't he doesn't say, hey, that's so horrible, Jim, that happened to you, because he knew it was going to happen.
Of course. No one would dare punch this beautiful mug in the face.
And Bullock's retort, Jim said, hey, why don't you try getting punched in the face? Never.
No one would punch this beautiful mug. Anyways.
Okay. So, let's see. Penguin
kind of gets to the gang before they have a chance to strike.
He beats him to the punch, and it's, to be fair, the same type of thing happened last time Penguin had a gathering at the Sirens Club with the whole Red Hood thing, because the Red Hoods were all in the kitchen, they were ready to strike, and then they were stopped. All right, let's see. So then we have, yes, Penguin has a special plan for them, of course, make an example out of them. Meanwhile, rooftop scene, another classic Batman
Oh,
scene.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that's the thing. Well, that's the best. That's the best part of this episode. We have so many classic Batman scenes set up in this episode,
and they all work so well, and it's not like it's forced either.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's so wonderful. Okay, so we have this great, classic rooftop scene here, where again, bear in mind, it's not like it's not overly seductive, but you see the attraction between these two unfolding. Basically, like they're doing, and I love this
symbolism of Selina on the ledge, and she's asking him to climb up onto the ledge with her, and she's balancing on the heels and all that. Visually, I really like the way this scene.
And it's a great callback to they did that together. She taught him how to do that.
Sure.
So Bruce apologizes, for the misunderstanding last season. And Bruce, he didn't tell her that, he didn't explain the whole, I stabbed Alfred through the chest and everything, so he just didn't have time of day for her, which kind of soured their friendship for 3 months. So he apologizes for that. He questions Tabitha as a mentor. Basically, again, as they're kind of getting close to each other, something might happen, and then Alfred interrupts as he does.
He has a great line. He says, "Oh, you two, why can't you just go to the cinema like normal teenagers?"
Sean Pertwee, great actor. Okay, let's see. So, tells him there's an urgent matter that he needs to attend to. Again, kind of classic, kind of Alfred with an excuse for Bruce to get out of the social event.
Right.
This guy, Bill Batman Returns. That's there. We'll kind of address in Selina. Okay, Penguin is about to make an example out of the gang very publicly about. This is what you do to people who are trying to make Gotham afraid. Again, afraid, operative word, fear and Scarecrow.
Sure.
Penguin is making himself out to be a hero, and I love this. Again, with the actual...
giving a rousing speech, and then he kind of, demands that the audience applause.
Yeah, it's great. He's like, again, this is the false Batman figure versus the real Batman figure in the scene. Both of them are neither Batman, but at the same time, it's kind of showing one is playing himself as the hero, and the
what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of a way better version of Galavan. How Galavan tried to play the public hero, with Jerome.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Okay.
So Penguin's made himself out to be the hero, and this is nice. And I like that Alfred's hitting this is a really good thing. It's kind of a thing that a lot of Batman stories do get to the heart of this. And I like how much pipe we're laying for Batman here is that Alfred refuses to let Bruce suit up because, as he informs him, there's a time and place for Bruce Wayne, and you said you wanted to make a difference. It's time for Bruce Wayne to make a difference. He's making sure he doesn't get lost in this vigilante crusade too much with a moment like this. So then Bruce, and a really great moment for Bruce. And again, this stuff is probably going to build track for a while. Gotham respects Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne asks Penguin, what are you going to do to these men? And of course, Bruce asks Penguin to, if they're going to go with the police, take these men to the police. Let the police nab these men.
Uh-huh.
And it's a great bit that Bruce says, "Look, I understand, but I'm asking. I understand." Basically, seeing Penguin's making his point, you said you respected me for getting justice for you, basically for having a system that would prevent what happened to your parents to happen to anyone else. And Bruce says, "Look, I understand all of that, but I'm asking you to turn them into the police." Again, very genuinely, really good acting. You're young, and again, great response from Robin Lord Taylor here. You're young, with a good heart. No.
I love that. I love how flatly he says no.
Tiki, to me, that moment there solidifies Batman and the Penguin for me. It's sure. They are coming from a place of caring about Gotham. Just one's more optimistic and one's more, I've seen Gotham. I've seen what it does to people. No. So basically, one is refusing to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. So then we have this bit here. Now, a great scene, but questionable start to it all here. So Ivy pulls the switch, literally.
Yeah, I really don't get that. It's just, it feels like there was something left on the cutting room floor.
Definitely, because all we
needed is one scene of Penguin seriously chastising Ivy. Like you said, we get the whole Ivy, be somewhere else right now, but if that's it, I really do feel like
right, because that seems like an overreaction. Ivy be somewhere else. I'm going to turn on him.
Yeah,
because they were besties last season.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, Tiki, the only thing I could hope is that the next episode they're going to give maybe an actual reason for, like she'll say why she actually pulled the switch. Like the only thing I can think of, Tiki, and I guess the only theory I'm just going to, it's like a one beat theory, is that maybe she was working in league with Tabitha. That's the only possible thing I could think of for this.
I mean, she did kind of greet Selena as Selena came in, so
That's the thing, you know, it'd be a way of working with Selena again, and of course, you know,
right.
kind of working. I'm saying Selena slash Tabitha, that she'd be in
Yeah,
league
I
with
hear
them.
you.
And we know Tabitha did not want to work with the Penguin, which would explain why Tabitha did eventually show up, because she wanted to stage a coup against the Penguin.
Uh-huh.
That's the only logic I have, and we'll see how true that is going for. Otherwise, it's completely random and does not make sense for Ivy. So, lights out. We got a lot of chaos and a lot of really cool action amidst the chaos. So, one, I'm sure you love this. Alfred and Zaz teamed up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It was really neat, and I love that last moment where basically after all the fighting, all the chaos, they kind of have their guns pointed at each other again as like an instinctual thing, you know, being kind of military man versus a hitman. It's like Zaz has that smile to him. It's like, yeah, that was fun. How far are we taking this?
Now I want to see Alfred and Zaz in like a Hitman's Bodyguard style, like, you know, like light buddy comedy.
God. All right, let's see. So Penguin gets sprayed by the gas. He gets sprayed by the fear gas, and then he oh yeah, he takes it. Didn't you want to comment on this one?
Oh yeah, the enigma of it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
this crazy I want to call it like vampire enigma is the best way.
I don't know.
Like, he's got these crazy like fangs.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's basically fangs, and it's basically this green kind of effect. He's just monstrous enigma. That's all he really is. It's kind of monstrous enigma.
And I gotta say, when we first saw like the first
we thought it was going to be the
actual talks, and I was like, yeah, that's like, it's okay. It's just not really like. I don't know. I still think that Batman Begins is the best use of theater toxin we've ever seen on screen, in my opinion. But you know, and I haven't seen everything.
I don't. I'm going to say this. I mean, Begins, yes, but I think in certain cases the fear toxin looked better in others in that movie. Here we might be able to spice up a little bit more, depending. Based on waiting to see what Gordon's fear is going to look like. That's going to be my barometer for judging the fears by.
Yeah, for sure.
So we know Gordon's going to get.
What I'm trying to say is that once we get to the enigma thing at the end of the episode, then I'm kind of sold more on the aspect of it.
I think we're getting more. I think we're going to get more variety out of this fear gas. Like again,
I can see that. You're right.
So let's see. So then, and this is great here. I love this visually, and I love the transition of everything about this. So Jim very publicly arrests Merton, again showing the GCPD. You're under arrest by the Gotham City, the police department. And then this image here is great. He holds, and this speaks to their relationship after all these seasons here. Where basically, the Penguin, he crawls into Gordon's arms, terrified after being gassed. And I love how like Gordon's uneasy about it. He's like, oh god, he's still holding him though. It's such a Tiki, to me. It's such a fun statement about their dynamic since episode 1. Episode 1, Penguin was in fear for his life, begging Jim Gordon to save him, essentially, and we're still doing that here. That to me is fascinating. It's a great kind of headline we cut to: Penguin or chicken. So yeah, the kind of the power of fear is definitely a good theme to explore there. That, you know, again, Penguin, now all of Gotham's going to see the Penguin was afraid, and it's kind of like, you know, a God bleeds type scenario. Like, hey, the toast of the town, the guy who's issuing out these licenses was made to look afraid. He is weak, so now we can kind of feast upon the land, sort of deal.
All
right, so based on that, you know, Bullock's asking, "Oh, you worried about the Penguin?" You know, Jim's not worried more about Crane than he is the Penguin, because Crane's still out there making this fear toxin. And then Jim has like a hopeful line about the GCPD with, you know, basically with this victory they scored. You know, they're good cops. I mean, showing that he doesn't really hold a grudge necessarily against the corrupt cops, which I thought was interesting. Hey, they're good cops, like he would have done in season 1. It's like, hey, they're good cops out there. They just need reminding. Yeah, which I want to say might lay some groundwork for Jim becoming the commissioner, having a mindset.
Oh, I definitely think so, for sure.
So I think that's the purpose of that line. I think that's why they got that in there. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Let's quickly go through the rest of it.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we're a little over an hour, but it's fine.
Well, it's the first one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Vigilante Bruce, you know, still ski mask. I mean, the ski mask is going to change. Might as well say as much as I can here. Ski mask Vigilante Bruce makes an entrance, makes a great bad entrance, and I love this. he's using more fear in his approach. Like again, before they weren't afraid. Now he's kind of using elements of kind of the begin sort of theatricality and deception.
Right, right.
Now he's he's kind of using maybe like he's rigged the lighting somehow to kind of go. He's messed with the lights, so now he can make a bat entrance more intimidating, which again we kind of see it in that Jim Gordon scene. So now he appears out of darkness, spooking the guy. He just walks in, he just tells him, I need your, I'm taking that list. And he walks in there, he grabs it, and he says, no, you can't take that. You don't understand. He just takes it and leaves. And as the guy like is kind of getting his bearings, he's a timid guy, so Bruce can get away with this logically. He's a timid guy. He's not gonna put up much of a fight. He just kind of walks in there and takes it, and then he just in the flickering lights, he disappears. So again, we pull a bat entrance and a bat exit in this scene. And again, it's like him learning from the bat entrance and exit in the previous scene.
Good stuff.
So we then have Bruce going to the rooftop. He happens upon some licensed robbers. Unfortunately, Bruce he leans on the glass. Folks, if we can take one lesson, I was watching a Key and Kill episode recently. They kind of reinforced this gag, but don't lean on the glass, okay? It's going to lead to comic mishaps or dangerous situations.
The Lost World Jurassic Park has always been my my glass cracking go-to.
Yeah,
glass cracking.
Never lean on the glass if you can help it, folks. So he leans on the glass. He crashes through. Of course, it's the dangerous position we put Proto Batman into, where he's in these dangerous situations where Batman years later would never find himself into. The alarm's going off, he's crashed. The thieves escape, leaving Bruce, who unmasked himself, possibly as a strategy. We'll see. Unmasked himself before the GCPD arrived, and Bruce is the only one there, and they can see it's very clearly. Bruce went, GCPD, you're under arrest. That's where we leave Bruce. Now, how do we end the episode?
Well, of course, we end the episode with the clip from the trailer that we've seen.
No, take it away. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on, please.
Yeah. Where Grady is, going to retrieve Crane, and Crane comes out. Now, Dragon, I just want to address this with you really quick. Like, did we see anything in the closet that they left Crane in to indicate that he could make the Scarecrow get up? Like, I understand that he probably puts like the the bag that the Scarecrow had as the mask. Like, I understand all that. I'm just questioning the tubes.
Well, here's the thing, Tiki. There were things in that room. I didn't really catalog what was in that room aside from obviously the Scarecrow. But at the same time, I like to think if that stuff just wasn't in there, I like to think that once he conquered his fear, once he became the Scarecrow, he was calm enough to find a way out of the room, and then he just kind of lingering in there to scare the guy.
That makes sense. Okay, I like that.
Either or, honestly, but I'd like to think the latter, personally. So let's speak to kind of the evolution of Scarecrows. I was kind of hinting at it earlier. The last thing I really want to hit with the Scarecrows. Again, fear has evolved him, which of course is going to be Bruce's arc in the grand scheme of Gotham going forward. Fear needs to evolve, in the very least, what eventually will get us to the Bat moniker, at least traditionally. Fear of bats kind of makes Bruce into Batman. So fear evolving Jonathan Crane, as well as being exposed to so much of his fear, it overtook him. And Jonathan Crane, that line he has, the last line is, Jonathan Crane isn't here. Only, and I love this phrasing, only the Scarecrow, and as in like only that thing you left me with exists now. You killed Jonathan Crane, exposing him to that much fear, exposing him to that much fear, darkness through your crime. Now all that is left is kind of this next level thing. His fear overtook him. The representation of his fear, the Scarecrow. So it's not just Scarecrow, it's the Scarecrow.
Yeah, I mean, you said it more eloquently than I mean, I think you're kind of talking circles around me in general with all this, but of course, yeah, I mean, definitely, I agree. It's a very good origin. I like how it does, as you said, it does kind of speak to, the mirror of Bruce and Scarecrow. Anyway.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. So that's the end of the episode. So promo?
Yeah, I mean, we don't get much. We get like 3 shots.
Yeah, that's all. Pretty much, basically, the Kevlar weaved upgrade. Lucius is giving Bruce. We know that's coming. Mm-hmm. We see now. To be fair, last promo stuff. We don't know if it's going to be directly in the next episode or maybe like in the 3rd episode. So again, they've just kind of. I think it's like
to be fair, they didn't. I don't think they had a this season on Gotham. So.
That's the thing. It feels like this season on Gotham, even though it's labeled as like next episode on Gotham.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the next episode, but whatever. I don't.
Either or. I mean, I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
either or. I'd be impressed if they did all this in the next episode. So I'm going to be hopeful. Okay, so yeah, the Kevlar weaved upgrade, which of course is going to be the upgrade from Ski Mask to just kind of vigilante Bruce. We have Bruce and Alfred in the field with this new getup. And lastly, and might be important, Scarecrow facing off against Jim, who recognizes that's Jonathan Crane, and Jim Gordon being gassed by the fear gas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we get in the promo. Now I guess it's time to speculate. We're going to start with the episode titles.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so episode 2, of course, is Fear the Reaper.
Right.
Episode 3 is They Who Hide Behind Mask. And episode 4, we only have 4 episodes so far. So I mean, of what we know with the titles. Last episode is episode 4, The Demon's Head.
Huh. Okay.
Of course, Ra's al Ghul. That's what the Demon's Head is.
So I mean, we already kind of did some speculation before the season started, which I think is going to play into it. Where I think Raj is going to have a hand in stopping Scarecrow, at least initially.
That's interesting. Here's what I think my 4 beats of how I think this is going to go to. Very simply, it's based on these titles, with the new one being revealed.
Okay.
I think episode 2, Scarecrow puts Jim's arc into motion with the fear that he has shown. I think that fear
episode 2 should be a pretty standard, like we've seen this type of episode before, where it's just like, you know, a standard like start to an arc where it's like, okay, the big bad's out there and the status quo is changing and we have to go after the big bad.
Yeah, and I think Scarecrow's going to put a lot of people's stories into motion. Again, with the fear, basically, I think Penguin and Jim's fears are going to kind of define where they're going this season.
Uh-huh.
I think Bruce, at the end of episode 2, Bruce is going to save Jim. Mostly, again, we saw a Scarecrow with the scythe, most likely at the GCPDs. Whatever situation that is where Jim gets gassed, and he's going to be in a helpless situation. I feel Bruce is going to, because again, he could blame Gordon for the death of his father, for all we know. Because again, his father did die at the hands of their bullets. So, I think Bruce as the vigilante in the upgraded costume is going to save Jim at the end of episode 2. Episode 3, based on the title, again, They Who Hide Behind Mask. I think, and this is what I'm really looking forward to 3 because I think it's going to be Jim having to track down the vigilante, which might lead to the Falconeville, like Falcone maybe dictating that he do that.
Yeah.
So the point is, I think Jim's going to have to track. Basically, Jim's going to be faced with, hey, that vigilante that saved you in the previous episode, you got to go find him. Who is he? Then episode 4, I think we'll just reintroduce Ra's al Ghul. And importantly, based on some clips that we got in the other ones, I think we're going to get a lot of backstory on Ra's in episode 4. Like, we're going to learn why he is the Demon's Head. I think that's what we're going to learn in episode 4.
Yeah, could be.
So that's...
do you think that the Scarecrow stuff is only going to be those 2 episodes?
I think he's going to be back, but I think we're going to take a break after the 2nd episode with him.
That's kind of how I feel as well. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the 3rd episode, Ra's kind of shows up as almost like a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing to put an end to the Scarecrow, at least temporarily. That's
interesting. I could. Yeah, I mean, we know Ra's is in the shadows, so that's possible. We'll see how that goes. Maybe. Like maybe Bruce.
Of course, at the very least, if Scarecrow, directly threatens Bruce, then that's when Ra's would step in.
Exactly, which would be interesting. Again, kind of that other protective Alfred figure for Bruce.
Right.
Okay, let's see. At last, a couple points, just a general spec for this. I think obviously Penguin's going to be haunted by the Riddler. It'll be kind of I'm
very curious to see where they take the Penguin moving forward. It seems like he's always kind of like on a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Where it's like a constant like up down.
Well, yeah, I think he's just going to be kind of tormented by the Riddler in the aftermath of this all. And he's going to be dealing with kind of like, why Ivy turned on him, which of course would be like, Tabitha. Again, but as I laid out, I think Tabitha is probably working with Selena and Ivy, and that's kind of like they're, maybe trying to take away Penguin's power. And Penguin, meanwhile, kind of dealing with the Riddler thing of it all. I hope will not be a rehash of season 3. I hope it's going to be interesting and different.
That's what I'm worried about. I'm glad you bring that up because that's exactly what I'm worried about.
I mean, that's a fear that we should address.
I don't want him to go to Arkham.
Yes, well, he's not going to go to Arkham, but I do fear that we're going to do the whole Penguin versus Riddler again. With basically have Penguin having a fear of Penguin dealing with the Riddler while stuff is going on in the criminal organization. That's what we did last season.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. I hope we're going to spice it up with this fear element of it all here. So the point is, Penguin's. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I will say this with the Penguin, though. I do think I think Penguin's going to send men after the Vigilante, and this is what I'm hoping. This is kind of the direction I really want us to go with the Penguin. I really hope Penguin, once he gets his bearings after the Scarecrow, next episode, probably going to have him dealing all with repercussions of the Riddler visions. And basically, after the Scarecrow is dealt with, after the Scarecrow story is dealt with, I think going forward, Penguin's going to be sending men after the Vigilante who stole the list from his guy, who stole the list from Mr. Penn.
Right. I see what you're saying, yeah.
I think, just based on this evidence and based on that great meeting scene, a part of me really thinks, and again, I can accept this. I think we've kept it vague with these two characters. I think Jim and Jerome are going to know that Bruce is Batman down the line.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have much. I just kind of want to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's just there's the possibility that this, this season or season 5 could be the last season of Gotham. You want to speak to that at all?
No, man. I just want to wrap it up because we're already 20 minutes late. So.
All right. Get final thoughts then.
You go first.
Okay, I like this episode better than the rewatch. I think there were some great moments, but the new, but the new status quo, it's something to get used to. It's something to get used to. I just think it basically this episode wasn't the solid story I was really hyping myself up for. It wasn't bad. I had a lot of great moments all throughout, and again on the rewatch, better experience with it. I just it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was very satisfying though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you kind of had the same experience I did, where some of the stuff felt a little bit rushed. It feels like we're jumping into it like a little too quickly. It's like we're being thrown out of a car and we have to run at the pavement. You know what I mean? To keep footing. But having said that, I think this episode eludes potential more than anything else, as you said, especially with the Bruce stuff. I think with the Bruce stuff, we've always been fans of Bazoo, but it's been excuse me, I'd say it's been a bit of an uphill battle in terms of a lot of people kind of thought that the Bruce stuff throughout the series has been a little bit watered down, a little bit unnecessary. And I think it's finally gotten to the point where it's definitely like the driving point of the narrative, which is what it should be. So that's definitely what I take away from it the most. I think by far the most scattered and mixed element of this episode is the Penguin. Just because I don't really know what his status is. I don't really, we don't really know why Ivy turns on him. We don't really know what's going to happen to him afterwards. That's really the thing that was kind of hard to swallow in the episode was the Penguin.
And I'm with you on that. That's what I'm saying. That's the new status quo stuff I'm talking about. I think it's something to get used to, and I'm hoping it's something that you'll be able to get used to, or will be illuminated upon its development. So yeah.
But other than that, I mean, pretty solid premiere. I still think probably the best season premiere is season 2. I would say.
Yeah, 2 did really have a good start.
Because it was just a really good kind of thesis statement on where Gordon's character was going to go.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Take us out.
So remember, kids, no matter how dark and scary the world may be right now, there will be light. There will be light.
Until next time, when we go exploring Gotham. Yet again.
Mazel tov.